Do you feel anxious, sad, frustrated, stressed, or just feel stuck by a cycle of negative thoughts and possibly negative behaviors? Do you find that your unhelpful and negative thoughts go round and round and you feel trapped and you'd like to change the way you feel? Is there anything that can help you? I think there is. I'm Alpa Joshi and I'm a psychotherapist who has been supporting people overcome anxiety, past trauma, and other mental health challenges for many years. For videos designed to help you live a more joyful and meaningful life, you can subscribe to my channel so that I can notify you when I release a new video. So in this video, I'm going to explain to you what CBT is and why it helps us. CBT is one of the most effective and best researched treatments for anxiety and many other mood disorders. Now, in order for you to understand the cognitive behavior therapy, it'll be helpful to have a visual depiction of a goal in our mind. What is your goal? Say you want to feel better as a result of doing CBT. So what is actually CBT? Cognitive behavioral therapy looks at our thoughts, which are called cognitions, and our feelings and our behaviors. It looks at how those interact with each other. Now, most of us are aware of how our feelings impact our thoughts and how our behaviors. So for example, if you don't feel like doing anything and you're like, oh, I can't be doing any exercise today, and you don't exercise. So our feelings have an impact on our behaviors. CBT also looks at our thoughts, so that we are driven by our thoughts. How we think can impact on how I feel, and how we think can impact on how we behave. And then of course, how we behave can also have an impact on how we think and how we feel. So in the example I just gave you earlier on, if you don't feel like exercising, but you get up and you do it anyway, you probably feel a bit better and you feel more energized. So your behavior would have changed how you feel and how you think. And that's really a key point to notice here. Because these days it's so popular to say that how we think really creates our world and our thoughts can really have an impact on how we feel. But actually, in my opinion, that's only partly true. It's only looking at the first half of the story and forgetting the other half of the story, which is the behavioral aspect of CBT. An example of how this might work for someone with anxiety. So let's talk about Tom, who suffers from anxiety. Let's say Tom's boss is hostile towards him one day. How would you think Tom would behave and feel? He might begin to think, my boss doesn't like me. I might lose my job as a result of my boss not liking me, and then I'm going to be homeless. And so within 30 seconds of his boss being hostile towards him, Tom is out of the street and he's homeless. His pulse rate is going up, his breathing is going faster and faster, his physiology is completely changing and becoming more intense with anxiety, and he might even begin to shut down. Anxiety creates a lot of avoidant behavior, and his anxiety feeling so bad makes him feel so bad that he feels that I can't do this work today, and that's going to make things even worse for Tom. So I hope this cycle really makes sense for you in terms of how thoughts and cognitions, so thoughts, feelings and emotions just keep going around in circle. Now I have clients like Tom coming to me and saying, Alpa, I really don't like the way I feel. I feel anxious, sad, hurt and angry at someone. Just help me feel better. So in CBT, we look at our cognition, which as you know are called thoughts, and our behaviors. We look at what changes we need to make to our thoughts. We identify each thought pattern that are negative, unhelpful or even destructive, and we call them cognitive distortions. So one of the most commonly used tools in CBT is called the thought log. It's also known as the CBT log because it's got a behavior aspect to it as well. So we first try and identify our unhealthy negative thinking and rate it on a scale from 0 to 10. 0 being not negative and 10 being very unhelpful or negative. We then dispute or reframe, is called negative thoughts, by asking the questions such as, is it a fact or is this an opinion? Am I catastrophizing this? Am I mind reading? Is there any evidence for this kind of thoughts, or am I just feeling it? And we also look at unhealthy behaviors and how they can reinforce our unhealthy negative thinking. Now, unhealthy behaviors fall into two categories: compulsive and avoidant behaviors. Now, example of compulsive behaviors would be working too much, overeating, drinking too much. And examples of avoidant behaviors would be not driving. So if you don't like driving, if you have fear of driving, you just don't drive. Isolating yourself, self-isolating if you have social anxiety. Procrastinating is a perfect example of someone who's perfectionist and just do not want to be attempting to do anything. So most people are aware as to how compulsive behaviors can be unhelpful or negative for our well-being, but actually not aware of how unhelpful or negative avoidant behaviors can be. Because when we're avoiding something, we feel that the feelings or thoughts are going to go away, but they don't actually go. In fact, avoidance can often reinforce or even increase unhealthy negative thoughts and behaviors. And there's a really famous phrase that comes to my mind is, what you resist persists. So let's now have some helpful tips on CBT. So as I mentioned to you before, so much of our society is focused on, by simply changing the way we think, we can change the way we feel. But many of us can't simply change the way we think. And so changing behavior is a key factor in feeling better. And a very helpful phrase coming to mind here is that move a muscle, change a thought. So we can move a muscle and we can change our thoughts. So with the whole CBT cycle, you really need to identify where you need to intervene. Whether you can intervene with changing your thoughts, or you can intervene by changing your behaviors. Now, changing how you think is not easy, and changing how you behave is not easy. They both take a lot of practice. With effort and practice, we can change our thoughts and our behaviors and feel better. Another thing to bear in mind here is also that if you find changing your thoughts or your behaviors very difficult, then it is possible that you might have some kind of childhood trauma or past trauma, especially if you're living with some long-term repeated negative thought pattern. And if this is the case, you may need a therapist to help you overcome your past difficulties or trauma. I've also created a PDF booklet that can help you with transforming your repeated negative thoughts and feelings and behaviors. You can receive it by subscribing to my channel. If CBT is something you would like to explore on a deeper level, I would love to hear from you. You can contact me through my website, and if you like this video, please give me the thumbs up, as it really helps me to know what I'm creating is supporting you, and it also motivates me to make more contents for you. So until I see you again, I wish you well and good mental health.